All right, welcome back to the Gill Athletics Connections podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cunningham. Super excited. Help me welcome the wise, the wonderful Mr. John Weaver. John, how are you, sir?
And doing amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, a lot of people say good or great. I mean, I'm alive. I'm 6 feet above the ground, and it's a beautiful day. So why not?
Sometimes there's not much more to ask for than just that alone, right there, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're alive and get to impact people and
That's it.
empower young people, and I mean, it's a great day.
That's it, man. I love it. I love it. This is starting off awesome already, man. I'm so excited for this. You are at Madison-Ridgeland Academy in Jackson, Mississippi. I actually know this school a little bit because I used to be an assistant coach at Mississippi State University, so recruited the Jackson area for future Bulldogs down there, man. And just it's a great area down there. And in podcast world, we're gonna say happy birthday to you, man. Your birthday is tomorrow, I believe.
It is. I'll be the big 4-1.
Is that right?
41. Yeah.
Dude, I'm 4 years older than you, but I look like 20 years older than you. You're doing something right. That's good. That's good.
Well, I'm blessed to make it to 41. So.
That's right. Yeah, that's very true, man. I hear you. Hey, let's jump into this, John. I'm super excited to learn your story, your journey. Let's talk about you, man. Let's kind of get in our Wayback Machine here. Where does track and field start for you?
Well, I'd love to say it was at an early age, Mike, but it wasn't. I was at Warren Junior and going into the 8th grade, and I was in the gym shooting, and Coach Landry K, and I remember this like it was yesterday. He says, "John, have you ever pole vaulted?" And I said, "Coach K, what is that?" He goes, "Well, look, I want you to find out. I want you to go to the high school. You're going to go with Coach Graham, and you're going to go to the high school today when school gets out, and you're going to learn how to pole vault." Now, that's where my track journey started. Pole vault, it wasn't high jump, it wasn't long jump, it wasn't triple jump. I don't think I was coordinated enough in my own eyes to throw the shot or disc. But then they're going to ask me to pole vault. Now, I did play quarterback in junior high. I played basketball. I mean, I was pretty athletic. I mean, my dad was athletic, my mom was athletic. And I was just like, wait a second.
But that's quite amazing, right? Coaches in general kind of have an eye for things, right? Like they see things in big scope, they see things in future athletes before they themselves can see it. But that's a weird one that he didn't come to you and say, "Hey, have you ever run track?" Or, "Hey, have you ever," you're talking about being athletic, so hurdled or long jump. I mean, you said you weren't coordinated enough to do the discus and the shot. Oh. The pole vault's a whole nother level though. What was it, do you think, that he just saw you and said, "Man, this guy needs a stick in his hand. Let's go try it"?
And I don't want to brag, I really don't, but I mean, I was pretty fast. I was pretty strong. I had a good core, and I would always like kind of do crazy stuff. And I think the crazy part, I think that's what hit it. Like that I was super crazy, that I was one of those guys that would jump off of like a cliff and go in the water. I would do a gainer. I would do certain things. Like, I guess that's what hit him. It wasn't the athletic thing. So let's rewind that. It wasn't the athletic deal. Yeah. It's that I was crazy enough to go and try that event.
That makes now I get it. Okay, that makes sense right there.
Look, now that I've gone back in time, like I see that now. Like, wait a second, it wasn't. Look, the athletic part was not it. Not that I was fast, that I could whatever. Maybe he saw that I couldn't jump, and he's like, "Hey, you gotta get this guy. Let's give him a pole, a piece of fiberglass.
He needs help.
Yeah, he needs help now." So that's where it started. So when I went to the high school and I met Coach Graham, and I had no idea. He goes, "What do you know about this event?" I said, "Nothing. And Josh Morgan, who played at Mississippi State, was a teammate of mine, and he was in the 9th grade. So I met Josh, and Corey Smith was one of our vaulters junior high. Matt Fant was a vaulter with me, and we were all like trying this thing, and it was just like, wait, I wasn't just the one. Like it was like 8 of us that went to go try this thing. And it ended up sticking, and I loved it. And I wish I had this cool thing that the first meet I went to, I cleared like 10 feet. Nope, no heighted. No heighted. It was a pearl. And our coach was like, "All right, Corey, Matt, John, you're going to pole vault. They're going to open the bar at 7 feet, and let's see how y'all do." we go and think we're cool. We got our poles on our shoulder. I mean, it's the cool event. Everybody's watching it because it typically happens pretty early, you know, when the 2 miles are being ran. So nobody really wants to watch a 2 mile. They want to go watch a field event. And man, next thing I know, boom, boom, boom. No height, no height, no height. All three of us.
So how did that make you feel? And what I mean by that is, you know, on every other event, except for the high jump, high jump's included here, no matter how green you are to the event, you're going to get a mark. You may be in last place. By the way, that was my marks in high school. I was always a last place kid. But, you know, generally, if you're in the first time you're doing the 110 hurdles, you're going to finish and get a mark. Shot put,
Yeah,
you're going to get a mark.
Seconds, 20 seconds.
Right. You get the goose egg, right? Yeah. You get did that challenge you of like, oh man, this will never happen again? Or was it more of like, yeah, this sucks, I'm going to go become a 100-meter guy?
With my dad being in the military, that was a super challenging thing for me. So it was like, look, I'm going to be good at this. If our coaches, and I was real big into coaches that made influences in my life. And I was like, you know, if they've entrusted me to do this and like, they want me to do this, and I don't know this from anything, like I've never even done this sport before, I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to make it worth my while and see how far I can go with this. So it motivated me to no end of, hey, let me see how far I can go with this. So guess what happened on the second meet, Mike?
I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. It's goose egg again.
No height.
Oh man.
Dr. Pepper relays, Vicksburg High School, no height. So now the psyche's hitting me. I'm like, maybe this isn't for me. I mean, we've done all these drills.
Yeah, you're putting in work. Yeah.
Yeah, like we did some drills that I was like, how's this going to help me? Like how, like, you know, the finishing drills, and there's all kind of stuff that we can get into with the ball as we talk later. But I was like, this ain't it. Like maybe I need to just go run the 200. So I went and ran the 200, finished last. I was like, well, that ain't it. It ain't the 200. And then I went and ran the hurdles. I was like, let me try the 110s. That can't be that hard.
Best event there is.
33 inches, right? They're small. No. So that's when I came to the realization, like, I'm fixing to make this thing work. And I focused even more that the third meet that we went to was our own meet. It was the Coca-Cola relays at Warren Central. And I cleared 9 feet.
Yeah.
Cleared 9
you had to be like elated, right? Like the best 9 feet you've ever jumped in your life.
When I cleared 7, I was like, I did it. I'm in the meet.
There's going to be a mark next to my name.
Yeah. And I'd like to say all of them were clean, but they weren't. But the fact that I had proven to myself, because it is, I mean, it's track, as you know, as it is you against yourself. And the PRs that you set and the personal best that you set, that's what kind of motivates track runners and event holders. Like, hey, how am I going to get better? So I went from 9 feet, and I kind of plateaued at 9 feet. That was it. Like 9.6, I think, was the highest I got in 8th grade. 9th grade, same deal, 9.6-ish. And I started putting a little bit more time into it. I go out to Dallas and do a little extra training. I go to Earl Bell, do a little bit of extra training, and learn some more stuff from people that know that. Jeff Hartwig was there when we were there. So it was really cool to see those guys. And I saw how the vault was supposed to go. And I was like, I can do this. I can do this. So many times driving up to Arkansas State, that area, to go to Earl's and learn some stuff. So, you know, when I get down to it, and I started looking and processing, how am I going to do this? My 10th grade year, I finished 2nd in the state.
Oh, wow.
And I think that goes back, and this is maybe encouraging to some listeners, is if you put your mind to it, you know, you control the mind.
Right.
And you control what you can control, and don't worry about, oh, is this going to be this? Is this going to be that? And, you know, I went from 9 to 12.6.
Wow.
And it's from going to a point of like, look, I'm going to do this thing. Josh ended up winning. We went 1-2 in the state meet. We beat Pearl's always good at it. Moss Point was always good at it when we were in high school. And I was like, I'm beating that guy. And I did. Started bending the pole, you know, started learning what inverted mean. And that's where the craziness comes in, right? I mean, I'm trusting that. Then I had a little setback. And if you can't see it on podcast land, but I almost, and you can see it on the video, there's a scar right here.
Yeah.
So my junior year, I'm feeling froggy. And I'm fast forwarding, I'm feeling like this, I'm fixing to go rock the state, right? I'm fixing to go be the guy. Josh's senior year, my junior year,
Right.
Josh's senior year, we're going to go through this thing. And I start getting a little froggy, and I get on some bigger poles to go and jump and scoot back my run. And I grabbed the wrong pole one time.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I thought I was grabbing like a 175, 14.6, and I grabbed a 160, 13.6,
Oh no.
and it snapped like a twig
Oh
to
man.
where it threw me, and the fiberglass went in there. And I show our vaulters now, and they're like, Coach, that's like close to, and I said, an artery.
Right.
It is.
Oh man.
Did not feel good, and it scared the ever living crap out of me.
Yeah.
So that was a setback to, I wish I had this really, really cool story that the junior year I came back and I did not. It took me 2.5 weeks to plant a pole again.
Sure. Yeah. I'm always amazed at vaulters, whether it's a pole break or a pole slip, something that happens, and they get the ones that can get right back on that horse and get back on the runway. That's a special thing, like mentally there. Right. So I appreciate your like humbleness and authenticity of like, yeah, I was not there. It took me 2.5 weeks just to even get back to a plant. Yeah.
It is so the coaches that listen to this, like if that ever happens to one of your athletes, and look, it happened, I'll tell a story about this later, but it happened to one of our athletes his senior year. And he almost broke his neck. The way he landed, he almost broke his neck. And anyway, so it took me 2.5 weeks, like to even get back on a pole. Like my dad would come and like try to pump me up. Coach Graham was like, come on. And he'd start clapping.
Right.
And I'd get to that last 1, 2, 3, and I just drop it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. My dad, there was some words from my dad, like, I come out here to film and you can't jump. And I'm like, Dad, I can't.
Right.
I cannot, psychologically, I cannot plant this pole and go up in the air. And look, I'm clearing 13.6. Like it's good. To where at the state meet, I finished 4th.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I finished 4th. I think I remember I cleared maybe 12, maybe I got it on misses. I forgot. I mean, my junior year was such a blur.
Yeah.
Just from all that. And then we step into my senior year, and my teammate and I, Matt Fant, going back from 8th grade, he and I ended up being the guys. Corey Smith was like, I'm going to play baseball, guys. Like, y'all are crazy. Y'all are Looney Tunes. And we had won a meet every, like, we were 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. Either I would win, he would win. He would win, I would win. And it was even so funny that a guy, the newspaper, like wrote an article about us. Like I drove a blue Nissan, he drove a red Nissan. They were exactly the same. So it was one of those cool things that like first place, second place. And whenever, like he was like, John, did you drive Matt's truck when you got second place? I was like, no, I drove my own truck. But we went 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 all throughout. And the North State meet, we're going in at 13.6. And I was like, we're the two guys and we're going to do it. And, when we sit there and look at, like, I go back to it's taking me back in that time machine right now. We get to Tupelo. Brendan Moon is the guy that is the big competition. And I looked at Matt and I was like, I'm not going in no 13.6. He goes, are you sure? And I was like, he goes, look, go in at 12. Go in at 12, get a mark, and let's go beat this guy. I was like, sure, let's go. I go jump at 12, and if you know anything about vaulting, if you're out, your pole's going to be here, and you can't get it over your head. When I tell you I went up about 13 feet, and I thought I cleared the bar.
Wow.
But I also had the standard looking right at me.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, I'm coming down, and I threw down, and when I tell you that this side of my body hit the mat, the other side hit concrete.
Oh man.
And I was like, as soon as I hit the ground, I was like, oh man, dude, here we go again. Here we go. And that was my first miss. And I was like, Matt runs over to me. He goes, you better get up. You better get up. He goes, we have to win. We have to beat this guy. Because we had kept this thing, like he and I were very close. I'm going 1-2, 1-2. And I was like, I don't care if you win it out. You're like, so here's what happens, Mike. I don't miss again. I end up winning the North State Championship.
Wow. Is that right?
Ended up winning the North State, clearing 13.6.
Did he get second? Your guy?
Yeah, we went 1-2.
Gosh. All right, good.
We went 1-2. So we're still there.
Yeah.
So here's where the story comes in that, man, it rips my heart out. But yet God has a way of letting things happen at an early age that we don't know, to now where I can share this with athletes that have some trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in as the number 1 seed, right? 13.6, Matt Fant goes in as the number 2. And this is like, and I think about this, I know those sound low heights. Those are low heights. I know some people from Texas will probably listen to this, but those are low heights. But the 1997, 98, 99 pole vault was just now starting to get big in Mississippi, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like 14 was high for people.
Mm-hmm.
So we go, and the newspaper comes back out, and he's like, hey, I want to do a feature on you two guys, but go more in depth, do a thing, get y'all doing some jumps. And it's on a Wednesday, meets on Saturday. I was like, sure. Like, he goes, look, I want y'all to do some pop-ups. I want y'all to do this. We'll get some some cool little pictures or whatever. I was like, yeah. And Matt was like, are you going to warm up? And I was like, man, we're just going to do some pole runs. Like 3-step pop-ups, like grabbing low. Like, this is nothing. I do one, I do another one. And then the camera guy gets like right in front of us. Like he's facing he's in the back of the pit, and we're going into the box. And I go up and I tear my left hamstring.
No.
Not kidding. Like it pops. Like, cause the force, like I was still trying to do a kick up, and I was trying to get my feet inverted and just kind of land on my back. And as soon as I planted with my left, drove with my right, and pulled my left hamstring.
And you're done. This is the week before state.
So this is the week of.
The week
So
of.
Saturday.
Now, tell me the miraculous story of how you wrapped it up. Down in Mississippi, and I'm from Alabama. We talk about you just put dirt in your nose.
And dirt on it.
Yeah, you rub some dirt. Tell me, you have this miraculous story of how you did that and you won state in spite of this.
So we go Wednesday, and Coach Graham, who's our pole vault coach, was also our athletic trainer, and he always called me Sweetie. He goes, "Come here, Sweetie." I was like, "All right." He goes, "Let me look at it." And he started stretching me. He goes, "You're done for the day." And I was like,
"You're done."
No crap, right? Like, yeah, no, I'm done. Then he says what every athletic trainer says, right? Put some ice on it.
Yep.
So we did. And then Thursday, I was like, I was walking around school. It was still too tight. And Friday, I was like, I told Matt, I was like, I got to try to get a pole in my hand. I'm going to wrap it up. And I think I used the whole thing of that atomic bomb. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And that white tube, right? So I opened up the can of the atomic bomb, and I was like, and rubbed it all on my left hamstring. And man, I got Coach Graham to like wrap it up with those ace bandages. And I was like, all right. He goes, "Look, Sweetie, go do some little runs, come back." So before, like, the 30-meter fly was cool, I was doing 30-meter flies with him, just kind of going. And he goes, "All right, you got to grab a pole. I need you to do it like a 3-step run." Couldn't do it.
Wow.
I couldn't do it. So the next time is Saturday, and he's like, "Look, stay off of it. I want you to go Saturday. Just go Saturday, get there early. Let one of the sports medicine trainers, you go get it stretched out. You go get it. I'll get all your stuff there. You and Matt just show up." I was like, "Cool." And I was thinking to myself, adrenaline's fixing to kick in, and I'm fixing to go win the state championship. Adrenaline is going to kick in, and I'm going to win this thing. So we start warming up, and I warm up perfectly. And I'm like, my dad looked at me, and he like gave me like, "You're good to go." Knowing in my mind, it hurt like hell. And I looked at Matt, and I was like, "Dude, it ain't it today." I don't think I can go. He goes, "You," and I'm about to start crying, man. Jeez, I ain't talked about this in forever. So I go, and we're at Hughes Field, where the state championship normally was, right? So we go there, and when we do that, we go, and he gets the pole, and he's like, "John, you got to go in at early height. You got to get a mark," and no telling what would happen. I was like, "I'm going big or going home, Matt." Like,
you're like, "I got 3 jumps at best."
I said, at best, if not just one.
Right.
And we're sitting there, and Brennan Moon is there from Tupelo, all these people. And I always had a tradition of, like, I had a Superman shirt, a red Superman shirt. And every time I'd vault, so the Superman chest would be on the outside, and I'd always roll my shirt. So I'd wear it inside out, then right side in, inside out, outside in, like just one of those weird athlete things, right? That was a superstition I had. And he looked at me and he goes, "You better go put on that damn Superman shirt." I was like, "Matt, I'm trying." Because we were so competitive. He goes, he and I, we knew we were the two best vaulters.
Yeah.
And I planted one time, I planted two times, and then the third time, like, I tried to jump, scratch, verbally said scratch. And the third time I was like biting my teeth. And I ran, and as soon as I went to go plant, I knew, because I couldn't, if I planted, it was going to be like, it was not going to be pretty. I was going to go up and come straight back down. And I threw the pole down. I go over. I still vividly remember kicking the mess out of a fence and then shaking it. And then I looked right at my teammate, and I said, "Matt, you better go win this thing. It's your turn to go win this thing."
Nice.
And I gathered myself. I was there to catch his pole every time he jumped. I was his biggest cheerleader, and he won.
Wow.
He won. And, there's one of those moments that you look back of, I had this grandiose plan of, hey, I'm fixing to be one of the top vaulters, but God had other plans. And now I get to share that with our cross country kid who was number one in the state, running 16:20 5Ks, supposed to win the state championship this past Monday, and collapsed on the track or at Choctaw Trails. And my wife looked at me, she goes, "You gonna call him?" I said, "I am." And I shared that story with him of how I was supposed to win. And if, we're not in control, we're really not. And just shared with him that, and I understood that. He had won every 5K that he'd won this year. He went to Huntsville and ran that super fast course and ran the stupid time, like, the one that's all down, a $2 million course.
Right.
And killed it. And I just told him my whole story, that story that I just shared with you. And I said, "Man, God has put me in a place to help you out."
Yeah.
Sharing my pain from my senior year 22 years ago to help you out with where we are now. So that's kind of my track journey in high school. I'll fast forward it real quick, but I got, I signed to pole vault at Hines Community College.
Yeah, nice.
And played football there as well. And I was actually a pole vaulter before I was a football player. And my freshman year, I went 15-2 in practice. It was like 14-6 in a meet. I only did it for 1 year. I kind of got burnt out and wanted to go play college football, and Delta State had offered me a scholarship, and I went and played football at Delta State, and the rest is history with my track career. And that's where it ended as an athlete.
Yeah, that's a great transition, because, John, you gave us an example there, but, as you're telling that story, and it's an amazing story, right? Because there's a lot of similarities. Other people are listening right now, and they have their own, maybe not at the state championship, but at conference, or, even as a coach with an athlete. But, I hear, grit and, determination in the face of adversity, right? How do you, and then, and that's all kind of personal, that's towards you, right? But then you flipped it to an amazing teammate example of, like, hey, Matt, right? That was his name. Hey, Matt, okay, you've got to win. Like, whatever I got to do to help you with coach and everything. Like, you immediately, instead of going into withdrawn and going to a sulk mode, it was leadership. It's exactly what that's the word I'm looking for. You turned immediately into leadership of, like, okay, well, I'm going to do everything I can to help my teammate. How have you taken those? A lot of that stuff is some natural stuff. A lot of that has been modeled by coaches that you've had there in middle school. The guy who saw you and just said, "Hey, report on Monday, you're going to try the pole vault." Those type of activities that led into the leader that you are. How do you use those in your coaching today? You gave a great example with your cross country runner, but more on a day-to-day basis, maybe. How do you utilize those skills?
Yeah, so I coach our wide receivers in our football program, and kind of take that same effect, because, John Torrey, and we can keep going too, by the way, we don't have to stop now. So John Torrey and I have the Culture Classroom, which is a podcast as well, but we always talk about process of the ships, and what it is relationships plus leadership equal championship, and your championship can be whatever it is. So I take that into any kind of motive to motivate my receivers. They're not all going to have great days. So how can I empower them to be good human beings and great human beings and overcome adversity? And, football Friday night, we're playing for a conference championship tonight, which is cool. But also, how I want them to know that I care more about them as Davis Dalton or Street Toller or Pax Hughes or whoever than, hey, you're number 11 on Friday night and you catch X amount of touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Like, that's all great. But how are you investing eternally? And right before we went on, we had a guy that graduated in 2016 and was asking me, he goes, hey, are you in your office? I'm on campus. Can I come see you? Oh. And those are one of those things where you invest eternally with kids. That's what I've learned is you care more about the athlete than who they are. Whether it's a baseball coach, like, hey, you're the third baseman on the 2021 team. That's great. But who are they?
Right.
And understanding and finding out who they are as a person has helped me, because Coach K, I'll never forget his name, about telling me, hey, let's go do this. And now being the head track coach here and winning 4 of the last 6 state championships, and the school's never won one, it's about relationships. I tell kids, hey, you need to go try this event? Absolutely. Because Coach K did the same thing to me.
Yeah, you nailed it right there, right? It's about who is little Johnny as the person, not what is their stats. And because, when you're looking at it from the stat side of it, it's a super selfish thing, right? Because then it's about, well, what have you done for me as the coach? Have you jumped 15 feet? Have you caught 100 yards in a game, et cetera? Where it's like, hey, your results, your stats are awesome. We're here to win and do our best. But you, little Johnny, little Sally, like you're the epitome of it. No one's going pro in this, right? In the scheme of things. So how do I help you become a great mom, dad, teacher, coach,
CEO of a company?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So here, and I'll speak to that real quick. We were really good this past year in boys track. Good enough that, you can only score 108 points on field event day, right? Oh, yeah. We scored 94.
Wow.
We were really talented. And here's the thing, the high jumper that went second place in the state for us, I got him out a week and a half before the season was over. We had to make some transitions and this, but it's because of a relationship I had with this kid from 8th and 9th grade that now he was a junior. And I was like, Will, I need you to come high jump for us. He goes, Coach, I know nothing about that. I said, that's the same thing I told my coach when I was in 8th grade. And he asked me to come pole vault. So that's full circle.
Yeah.
And he ended up clearing 6 feet, finishing second.
Wow.
The high jump was really bad this year for our association. But we went 1-2 in that.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you so much. He goes, Coach, I'm coming back next year and I'm going after it. The guy that won it for us jumped 6'6". So it was a big drop off, but I needed number 2. And anybody that knows anything about track, your ones don't win state championships, it's your twos.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So, and that's my thing is I'm taking experiences from Coach K back in 1994. And now it's 2021 doing the same thing. So you talk about modeling that behavior. You never know what a kid can do unless you ask them. Coach K had no idea about what I knew about pole vault until he asked me. And then I turned it into a high school career and then getting a scholarship to go do that in junior college.
Right.
I mean, you never know. So as a coach, what are you doing? And I look, I can get on a soapbox with this about how many coaches be like, oh, he can't do this. How do you know? How do you know that? How do you know that Billy can't shoot a basketball? How do you know that he's not fast enough? Like, are you judging that, like judging the book by its cover and
right.
If that was the case, this little 5'8", 130-pound 8th grader pole vault, are you kidding me?
Right. And so what are you teaching if you're just saying, oh, look at him or her, he can't do it. Yeah. What are you teaching that kid as well? Right. Hey, so, I want to give you an opportunity to get on your soapbox here a little bit here though, John. So, one of our goals here is to provide just immense value to, I'm so humble the people that listen to our podcast. You mentioned your podcast, the Culture Classroom, right?
Yes,
Tell me more about that, because culture is one of these things that we talk about a lot on the podcast. I get a lot of questions from others about this. Yeah, it's the hardest thing to build, but the easiest thing to damage. Tell me a little bit more about your podcast. I'd love for people to be able to find your podcast and, how'd you start it? What's it about? Well, okay, spoiler alert, it's about culture, but how did you get started with it and things like that?
Yeah, it's great. I'd love to speak on that, but I've kind of gotten away from the word culture, Mike. Gotten away from that word.
Your podcast is called the Culture Classroom, right? So
the more I think about it, we should have called it relationship building classroom or something. But culture, the alliteration with culture and classroom, it kind of fit.
Yeah.
John Torrey from Denison, Iowa, or he's a teacher, and when I did this, I was teaching. Now I'm in the administration part of athletics at MRA, but man, we wanted to find a way to pour into coaches, influencers that had a positive feedback on what culture has done for them inside their program, their business, whatever it is. So we've had Damon West, who's the Coffee Bean. He's been on. Him and Brian Kite, a number of college coaches, high school coaches that just share their story. And we haven't recorded in a while just because life gets you busy and football season. And so we're hoping to get that started back up. But look, we don't charge anything for it. We don't have any, like, the sponsors want to come on, like, hey, yeah, just give me your stuff and I'll whatever. Like, sure, we'll plug you out. But it's more about connecting with coaches and CEOs and influencers and innovators that want to know more how they can help their business, their school, their team. So we have like little snippets of stories. We have a little 5-minute mini pods. We have 1.5-hour long podcasts. We have 25-minute podcasts. So they're all broken up into seasons, so it's easy to digest. So it's Culture Classroom. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. We just hit like right around 65,000 downloads.
Awesome. Hey, that's a big deal, man. Congratulations. That's awesome.
It's just something fun for us to do. I think our wives get hectic. They're like, what are you doing? Like, we're recording, like, y'all don't do anything. Like, we're influencing.
Right.
Like, we're empowering people. And that
100%, man. So
most us,
being similar, right? Having an interview podcast here with the Gill Connections podcast, one of the greatest joys I personally have being the host is, I get to learn from the men and women who join us here. And I can still think back, after 30, 40 episodes now, I can still think back all the way back to, the first 10 episodes of where a coach has said something that like it stuck with me. It was sticky at that moment. I was in the right posture to receive it. And it has still 2 years later hits me, right? Like, I think about our episode with Brooks Johnson, famed Olympic coach. And he was actually quoting another famed Olympic coach, George Williams, but he said to me, if you're not in the huddle, you don't know the play, right? He's a track guy, but you're a football guy, so it sticks right to you, right, for football. My question to you, John, is these great people that you have interviewed over this time with the podcast, what has been like that? Like when Brooke said that to me, it was like a whoa, like, oh, like hit me like, oh, like, I could see all the other parts of that, like stop judging people, start seeing them for where they are. You don't know what anybody's going through at any one time, etc. What's something, a guest, a saying,
an aha moment?
That hit you that you were like, oh, dude, this is gold right here, what this guy just said.
Nick Winkler.
Okay, tell me more about
Nick. He is at Clintonville High School.
Okay.
It's where they make all like the fire trucks in Wisconsin. And he has this curriculum that he's turned into, like, it started out as an idea and then it turned into a curriculum. Now he teaches at his school. And he's the head football coach there. And he said 4 for 40.
4 for 40.
We get 4 years of high school with these kids, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
All right.
How are we impacting them for the next 40?
Oh, wow. That's so good.
And we were on the podcast and Tori sent me, I was like, this is amazing. 4 for 40. So that has been, and I think I mentioned it earlier in our talk, what are you doing 4 for 40? So that sticks with me. So anytime I look at a kid in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, how am I investing in this child for the next 40 years? So when Hayden White comes back, who plays baseball at Delta State, played for us, played football for us, and comes back in his 2016, and now he's finishing up his 6th year because of COVID, and he got an extra year for baseball. He's done. He worked out this morning in Cleveland and comes back and boom, he sits in my office, and I took a little break before we went on. He was like, can I just talk to you for like 10 minutes? I was like, sure. So, and wants to get into coaching now. I was like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. You have failed right there, coach. Yeah. 4 for 40, man. I love that. That kind of just hit you. And like, did it help? You were already doing a lot of great things for your students and obviously had a good posture and heart for it. Did that kind of like, stoking flames? Like it was like, oh, like it helps him put like words into what I want to be really doing here.
And I use that. And I give Nick credit. And I mean, it's just one of those things that, yes, like I wanted to formulate it. And how do I say this, that I'm empowering kids? And it's just come. And he said 4 for 40. And when he said that, I was like, that's it.
I love
that. That's the light bulb. Boom.
Yeah, right.
Light bulb right now, that light that's on my head, like, bing. So
that's amazing. I do love that. Shout out to Nick, because that's amazing. I'm going to use that one. I love that. That's really, really good. So for you, John, when did you go through a high school career that literally has its ups and downs, going to college and do it? When did coaching, like, talk about that light bulb moment? When did it switch and it's like, oh, wait a minute, like athletics, football and track, it's not just something I can do. Like I actually can coach. Like that's a career, being a teacher and a coach. When did that switch happen for you?
All right, so twofold here. 8th grade, I knew that I wanted to coach because of Coach K. I was like,
yeah, right.
Well, and then it takes the detour. So I told my grandfather, who I was really close to. Then I told my dad. And remember, I told you before that they were very driven people. They were the boss of their companies. My dad was a sergeant major in the military. My grandfather was the head of the Mississippi River Commission for 31 years. Like, very influential people. That's why this is my grandfather passed away, but that's his thing it's his boss. That's his.
Wait, hold that back up. He's holding up this, I don't know, probably looks like maybe 2 to 3 inches tall. And it's like a silverback gorilla just in the attack mode. And it just says boss down at the bottom.
That's it.
I love it.
That's what he was. He was the boss. And, he taught me a lot. My dad's taught me a lot. And I told them, I was like, I want to go into teaching and coaching. And they go, why? You're not going to make any money. And I was like, and my grandpa was like, you need to be an environmental engineer. Well, Mike, environmental and engineer, those two words don't even sound good together, like home and work.
Right.
Those words don't go together, right? So we're sitting there and I was like, I want to go into coaching. Like, they're like, oh, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. So I go into education at Delta State. Then I get this like marketing business bug, right? That lands me at the Gulf South Conference in Birmingham as an intern for the baseball. I ran all their baseball for the NCAA, which then lands me in New Jersey or New York for about 2 months. Wow. Almost had a job with the New York Knicks as an athletic marketing media relations intern.
Wow.
Yeah. So my grandfather, who I'm super close to at that time, he's the reason I love LSU. I can get all that. I mean, it's so, I'm going to pause this and go to this. Why my grandfather was so important to me is, and I think God has a way of taking a life and giving a life. He died the day after my son was born. And my grandfather was always like, you need a boy, with that Louisiana, accent. He goes, you need to carry on the Weaver name. And,
that was good. That was a good accent.
Yeah. So he meant a lot to me. So I moved back home, Mike. I moved back home to Vicksburg. And I was like, I can do this coaching thing. And I was a librarian for my first job. I said, anything to get me in the door, to keep me in Vicksburg, let me do whatever I need to do. I made $1,200 a month, live with my parents. Mm-hmm. And I was an assistant coach for football, coach like the DBs or whatever. And I was like, yep. And I was like, man, this is, because my career path was going somewhere different. Mm-hmm. But it brought me back to coaching. And I was like, this was 8th grade. Like I had that moment of like, here I am back in 2006. It's where I wanted to be when I was in 1994. So God had a way of making that full circle. So we do that, work there. Then I go to another job. I hadn't finished my master's yet. So I work out a deal with the school to, hey, whatever you need me to coach, I'll coach. I'll do track. I'll do whatever. Mm-hmm. So I was the OC for football. I helped with softball. I did basketball. I did track. I was the athletic director. I mean, anything. I was like, holy cow, I was just kidding. And they helped me pay my master's degree, finish off my master's degree. Like I was like tongue in cheek, I'll do whatever. Like, surprised they didn't have me like mopping the floors. Probably if I would have said that. But I did that. And then I had the bug again to go back into business. So it was kind of like this, ebbs and flows type deal. So I go to work for Tower Loan, Mike. If you know anything about Tower Loan, they solicit money to people that they know will never pay it back at like some outrageous rate. And I worked there for 2 days, and I was like, this, because they sold this as like, oh, you can work up the ladder, you can do this. And I was like, sounds great. I was there for 2 days and I was out.
You saw pretty early the predatory. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This ain't me.
Yeah.
So then I don't have a job for about a week and a half. And I was like, this stinks. I can go back to coaching. So I almost started working at a place called Greenville High School. I was like, we're not going to do that either. So a buddy of mine who, when I coached at Porter's Chapel that first time, goes, hey, Tallulah Academy needs a defensive coordinator and a track coach. Are you interested? I was like, hold on now. Yeah. The two things that I knew, football and track, and they needed it. So I interviewed on a Monday at 8:00 with the head of school, 10:00 with the board, 12:00 I ate at a place called Lou Ann's Diner. 2:00 I was on the practice field.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
It was fast.
Yeah.
I thought the Roadrunner was fast. This was super fast. Like, yes, you're hired, you're this, you're that, you're that. And I was like, great.
Let's go.
I was there for 2 years. We did good in football. We were okay in track. We didn't have a track. We had like grass around the football field and all that stuff. And we got kids to qualify for state. I really wasn't worried about team yet. I was like, we got to get these things going. Mm-hmm. And then I go to Porter's Chapel. I go back to Porter's Chapel. It was 2 years at Tallulah. I was the DC, and then the next year the head coach, the AD. And then the next year, Porter's Chapel calls like, look, we need you to be the head track coach, and we want you to be the head football coach.
Wow.
Sure. So here this whole full circle thing of now I'm back at the spot. And I told my dad, I was like, here I am. This is it. This is perfect. Poppy's here. You're here. Poppy's my grandfather's name. And this is perfect. Like, we can go and make this work. I'm here. I can go help him at the house. I can help you out. Well, then MRA called, and this is where I am now. And they said, hey, look, we need an offensive coordinator. We need a head boys track coach or a head track coach. So I would do all four, which was an undertaking. Mm-hmm. I said, oh, and by the way, we've never won a state championship in boys, and we'd like to start doing that now. School's been around since 1969. I was like, oh.
Wow.
So my wife was kind of apprehensive about it. She was like, John, they're going to have a lot of high expectations for you. And I was like, well, I'm going to have a lot of high expectations for myself. Right. Like, honey, if they're worried about firing me, if I don't get this done, I'm going to probably fire myself. And long story short on that, we get here, and I'd like to say this was one of these cool stories, but my first year, we do good in football, but track's my deal. Our girls finished runner-up in the state, and our guys who they were really wanting to start get going, we finished 5th. Mm-hmm. And a school that beat us at the state meet didn't even have a track. And I was like, oh. So I go back to my original plan of how do I invest in these kids and get them out to where they started calling me the Pied Piper around the school. They're like, oh, he's the Pied Piper. He's going to get you. You say you're coming to, you're going to be out for track. You're going to be out for track doing something. So the second year we finished 4th in the state. Still it's that relationship building thing, right? Process of the ships that John Torrey uses. The relationships plus the leadership gives you the championship when your championship is whatever it is. That next year I go into it and I said, look, we're going to go win the North. We're going to win the North championship. And we did.
And
not because I said we did. Yeah.
Pause right there, because every state's a little different. So explain for those who are listening, we've talked about North championship, South championship, state championship. Help people real quick. Kind of give the 30,000 foot level of how we do things in Mississippi for high school.
Yeah. So it's a district, and then you have to qualify a district. Then you go to a regional, you do the regional thing, and then you go to the North state thing, and then you go to the state, and the top 4 qualifiers advance. So it's a lot of undertaking.
So it's almost like you like you said, you split the state into 2, and we call it North State, but you could call it the North Regional for all I care. But then they bring them all together and have the state championship there, right? Okay, right. I just want to make sure that we're all we do it a little different everywhere. So I just want to make sure we're explaining that. Cool. So you win North State in your third year,
and we finished runner-up in the state.
Wow.
And this is when I know that we're fixing to amp up our training a little bit. So I call some people, I get some more help. I do some, my connections from when I was in college of how can I do some things. And And they're like, look, you need to do this for our sprinters. So we started doing that. And I said, guys, whoa, I can do all these high school, college, crazy workouts. I was like, I want 45 minutes with my sprinters. I want an hour and 15 with this. I want 30 minutes with my jumps. I want to, but I also want to build relationships with these kids, these boys. And by then, Melanie Black, who's a story track woman here, who's won numerous state championships in George County, Northwest Rankin, she comes and takes over the girls. So she's got the girls, I take the boys. And I'm like, I can focus all my energy right here on these boys. And I was like, all right. So we go through and we win. I'm going to fast forward it. We win the North State in 2015. Okay. So 12, 13, 14, we get to 2015. And I was like, I told our assistant at the time, I was like, we have to double up somewhere. We got to have a double winner somewhere. Well, that happened to me, the 100, the 200, and the high jump. So we go 1-2 in the 100, 1-2 in the 200, and 1-2 in the high jump at North. And I was like, oh, look at our time. Like we're 11:05 in the 100, 11:05, 11:18. Like we're rolling. Our sprint relays are okay. We're enough to get the baton around. But then we go to the state meet and we have a banner day in 2015. And we have a banner day on Saturday and claim the first ever state championship in 2015.
Wow, dude, bravo, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. It was really cool. So then 2016, I'm like, we got the same kind of nucleus back. And then my 110 high hurdler, all he has to do is finish the 110s. And he pops his hammy.
Oh.
So guess what I get to do? He's a senior.
The story.
The story. It all comes back into play.
Nice.
The story. My experiences have now transcended through two of our athletes. And look, he holds the 300 hurdle record at our school, 39.98. And stud athletes. And now he's a coach here. He coaches basketball with us here. So it's come full circle. But now, you know, and we don't win it in 2016. 2017, we have the youngest team I've had, like sophomores, juniors, sprinkled in some seniors, because seniors, it's hard to get them to run. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, how are we going to win this? And literally the day before, I was like, guys, don't worry about it. I was like, it's going to be really tough. I want you to go and compete and do your best. Mm-hmm. And let's see where the chips fall. I was like, 2015, 2016, we had a great run with some upperclassmen. We've built this thing. Let's see what happens in 2017. Let's just go and compete. We come out of the field up by 14. We go 1-2 in the pole vault. We go 1-3 in the high. We go 1-3 in the triple. We go 1-2 in the shot. I mean, it was crazy. I was like, I get back on the van. I was like, what are y'all doing, trying to prove me wrong? They go, yeah. So it was like a crazy meet. We go down to the mile relay. I have 3 sophomores and a junior. And when I tell you we've ran enough 23.5-second drills and enough 45-second drills that I'm like, I know my 4 guys. And I'm on the phone with the admin at that time, and they love track. They're like, you're putting who is this? Who is he? Who is he?
That's awesome,
though. You got to trust me.
Yeah.
Like, well, what about this guy? What about, I was like, you got to trust me. And I said, look, we don't have to win it. We just have to beat JA. You beat JA, you win the meet. Yeah. They're like, we ain't just going for second. I said, no, let's go win it. So I slingshot it. And we ran a 3:32 and we won it. Wow. And we win the meet by 1 point.
Oh my.
So 2017 holds a special place in my heart.
Sure.
And then 2018, we were not the best team. We had a lot of those kids come back, but another school down south was really, really good, and they beat the brakes off everybody. We finished 3rd in 2018. And then 2019 came back and won it again.
Awesome.
We're winning on the odds, right? 2020 happens. Nobody won.
No one won. Yeah, we all lost on 2020.
We all lost. Yeah. COVID took that one. So then 2021, this year, I'd like to say, I don't want to say pin up anger, but our guys were ready and anxious to get on the track. And I knew how good we were going to be in the field. And I knew how good we could be in the hurdles. The sprint relays were just what they were. And then the middle distance and distance, we could hold our own and not get doubled up there. And Mike, when I tell you in a 10.86 meet, you know, we scored 94 on the first day out of a total of 108. We scored 218 total that day.
Wow. Holy cow.
218, most ever scored in a championship in Mississippi, I believe, for our association.
Yeah.
So we've kind of cemented ourselves to where, hey, it's 4 and 6. So it was a big joke going out. It's 2022 for this track season coming up. I'm like, it's an even year. Like, don't even put pressure on us.
Yeah. See you next year. Yeah.
15, 17, 19, 21. Like, hey, 2022.
All right.
There's no pressure on us, but 2023, it's a different story. So it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. Our kids love track. They have all kind of different uniforms. Each year has a slogan.
That's awesome.
It's a cool deal, but
John,
my experience, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how are we doing on time? Because I have a couple of topics to explore with you. We're good. So a couple of things that you brought up, John, that I think are really important. One of them is you had talked about, they started calling you the Pied Piper, right? You started beating the drum, building relationships. Hey, come out for track, etc. We've had several high school coaches on the show before. And one of the knocks that high school coaches get in regards to can you ever coach college is recruiting. And I think it's a horrible knock, because this is what I hear about, that your lifeblood to be a state champion caliber team, you've got to be a good recruiter, a hallway recruiter. Tell me more about like your philosophy on recruiting, how you get kids out and, make it a sport that people want to come join.
Well, God gives us a will to obey, and God gives us the will to work, right? And with those two things, I'm going to go and recruit our hallways and understand that, hey, guys, this is going to be exciting for you. If you give me 45 minutes, an hour and a half of your time, I'm going to make you a better athlete. And I think that's what coaches, and I missed the boat early. I was like, you need to come run track, you need to do this. And I would overload athletes with like, oh, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And I was like, who wants to do 4 to 6 events? Nobody. Right? So we don't overload our athletes.
Interesting.
The most any one of them will do will 3. If somebody has to do 4, they'll do 4. A lot of my field event guys don't compete on Saturday for championship day. So they're fresh. And I've come to the conclusion that if you have that and I keep going back to the relationship piece, Mike, that if you have that with those kids and you build trust in those kids that, hey, coach has the best interest for me. Like, I'll give you a story. There's one of our kids who's like, Coach, I really don't feel too good running the 300s today. And I was like, well, don't run them. And it's in an invitational meet. I was like, well, don't run them. He goes, well, don't we need points? I was like, I'm not worried about today. I said, I'm worried about you as a person. I'm worried about you feeling good about yourself, and you know your body better than I do. So we'll put our number 3 guy in there and let him go run. He goes, well, what if we don't win the meet? I said, and it sounds bad, I don't care about invitationals. I care about you getting better each week. So our kids know, like, hey, if we win invitational, that's great, whatever. I'll run two sprint relays I'll run 2-mile relay teams. I'll run about 4 4x8 teams. And I'm like, invitationals are great, but I want you to better your time. I want to go and see how we're doing training wise. When I get your 10-meter fly and your 10-meter block and your 30-meter fly and your 30-meter block, and how is that coinciding with the speed that we're putting in? Are you getting better? If not, I got to adjust our training. So there's a whole different aspect to where it goes back to our conversation probably about 25, 30 minutes ago, is I'm going to care about you as an athlete. Not that you're a 300 hurdle or 100 high. I mean, we had one of our vaulters 2 years ago. He's like, or 3 years ago. He's like, I don't feel it today. And he was jumping 14.5, 14.6. I mean, he's an amazing kid. He goes, I just don't feel it today. And I was like, well, don't vault. He's like, but you need me to vault. I was like, I need you to be okay for May. I don't need you to be good right now in the beginning of April. I said, if you don't feel it, you're good. And being transparent, not translucent with those kids that know, hey, oh, he really, yeah. And if I tell a kid, hey, you can go home, you don't have to run the mile relay, I am not going to call that kid and be like, oh, we don't have enough to run the mile relay. No, we just run 3 legs and we're out. That's it.
Yeah, I love that, right? Because, kids talk, right? I mean, not only face-to-face, but text, TikTok, whatever, et cetera. So like they're sharing these stories, hey, what Coach Weaver told me? Like, he told me he cared about me as a person, not my PR in the 300 hurt. Like they talk about that. Cause by the way, they talk about the opposite side. They talk about Coach X who drills them, made them run, 10x400 at practice and then the 4x4 and things like that. So I love that authenticity, because it's going to catch up with you, good or bad, one way or the other, because the kids talk. They're gonna remember that. They're gonna tell future kid. They're gonna tell the kid who thought about joining track but just wasn't sure. and then here's a great story from his peer and says, all right, that pushes me over. I'm going to join the team.
Yeah. Hey, hold on 1 second real quick. Our head of school is looking at me real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. It's really awesome to have Coach Weaver on the podcast here. It's, we have so many varied guests, and so it's great to see and hear different ways of doing it, right? I mean, so to hear John's recruiting and the lifeblood it is for the team, and to win state titles and win the first boys state title that the school ever has, it's always great to learn from that. So John, as kind of a follow-up with it, you're a football coach and a track coach, right? And so, I'm a big, and this is how we met, John. So I'm a big social media guy, right? So when I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed, like it's this huge, it's 50-50, right? It's 50% of high school and college coaches, to be fair, that are saying, you know what, if you want to be fast, if you want to be a great football player, you've got to run track, right? Right now, the big Reggie Bush, and thanks Reggie Bush for putting that out there, because that was huge. There's 50%, and then and it may be the same 50%, but there's another 50% of people out there talking about how they just cannot get through to their football coaches, that their football coaches want to lock it down on 7-on-7 camps and things like that. How do you lead in that respect, as far as being a football coach who's also a track coach? And what I mean by lead, like it's you don't need to lead the track people. We all believe in it. So how do you influence, and maybe you don't at all, but what's your influence over other football coaches in regards to the football track combination?
I think if you look at it, track matters. Track matters, and if you're wanting to do speed development, right? And all these football coaches want to do track speed workouts, and who do they ask? They ask track coaches. What do I need to do? Unless they have a strength conditioning coach. Like, what do we need to get? I'm like, well, let them come to us. We'll train them speed wise. No, you'll make them do tempo runs and this, and they'll run 300s. I'm like, yeah, and we're also building mental toughness. We're also teaching them how to compete. There's a lot of areas in track that when you line up on that 100-meter dash and there's that adrenaline flowing, and it's you versus the other 7 people, if it's an 8-lane track, you can't get in 7-on-7. You can't get in sprint workouts on the turf. You can't do that. You are competing, and you're competing for your school. So to football coaches, as being a football coach, would you not want your guys competing year round?
Right.
Go let them compete against the guy that they saw was a linebacker on a team that you played, and now they're beside that dude fixing to run the 200. Now it's the guy that you played in the fall, and now you're running against him in the spring. And that's a whole nother story, man. Like, track matters, and track, like doing track correctly. Now, I'm not into these track coaches that think that you got to have a 2-hour workout. You got to do this. I was like, sometimes my warm-up's longer than my workout.
Right.
So I just think sometimes when football coaches get confused, they get misinformation, they get inaccurate information about what other coaches are doing on the Twitters about track.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I don't want my guys doing this. What are 300s doing? What are 250 sprint guys doing? Or what are 150 buildups doing? Let them go compete. So look, we took a track guy, one of our senior wide receivers, from 38, and I got an awesome horizontal jumps coach, Corey Stevens. He did it for me. So I've hired coaches that have done stuff for me so they understand. And I said, look, you got Street and you have Sam. He goes, you know what? I was like, look, I got to go coach up a 9th grader in the vault to go finish 3rd in the state. I got to get him to 12 feet. I said, so I don't have time to worry about the triple. I said, I coached you in the triple. You know how I like doing. You know my stages of development. You know my drills. Go do them. And he came back and he goes, well, don't you want to come say? I said, Corey, I trust you. Like, that goes back to that piece of I trusted him when he was a runner and jumper for me. I trust him as a coach for me. And they went 1-2 in the state in triple. It went 41-10 and 42.
Wow. Yeah.
And Street went 2nd. And Street was like at 38-7. It was terrible in practice. He goes, I can't get him to do this. I said, and I'd offer advice. I was like, hey, let's elongate the 2nd phase. Let's make sure he's going heel toe. If he needs to wear flats, wear flats. If he needs to put cushion in his shoes, but if I need to go buy some other shoes, I will. And then we worked on finishing drills with him. And I was like, Corey, you know how to do all these things. I said, you don't need me. You're a great jump coach, and go be a great jump coach and coach these guys up. And then I said, on meet day, go empower them. Go pump them up. And
So
he did.
Staying in the football world, everybody who's listening right now, it has some connection to track, right? We're track coaches, track athletes. And if there's a football coach listening, it's because they are also a track coach, right?
Mhm.
So peel the layer back for us here. Tell us, when you go to football clinics, so it's football specific, not the track ones, right? So you go to football clinics or conventions and, a bunch of football coaches, you all get together. What is the general consensus about track and field as it relates to what they're trying to do in football? Is it just the evil empire? Like, you know what, those track coaches, go run your circles and let us big burly football coaches stay on the 100 yards here, right? Or is there some generalized respect for what happens on the track?
I would say there's generalized respect because of who I am and what I stand for. And our head football coach, Herbert Davis, who's one of the best in the Southeast, gets that track matters. So he backs me up with that. He's like, yeah, this guy. I mean, we have football players competing in track. So he even comes out to the meets and watches. He's like, how can I help? So he is a huge advocate.
That's awesome.
That's one of those that, and if head coaches are you listening to this, or you're a track coach, I don't know how many football coaches listen to this, but I think go and show your head football coach, hey, this is going to matter. And this is maybe get more players out. Maybe there's a kid that's loves track, but hadn't really talked about football. And he's like, but you see, he's fast enough and can help in some capacity, maybe on a special team or whatever. But our head football coach does an amazing job of being an advocate for track and field.
That's awesome. So to start wrapping up here today, John, talk to me about, one of the things you are involved in. I don't know much about it, but help us learn more about this track advice. So your Twitter handle is track_advice. It's track coaching clinic. I'm not real sure. Tell me more about what this is. What do you got going on here? I love coaching education. So what are we doing here?
MRA Coach Weaver is my normal Twitter.
Right.
At MRA Coach Weaver. But I run what is called At Track Advice. And I've been entrusted to this by some people on CoachTube that have helped me. And they said, look, we want you to run our social media. And I was like, sure. So it goes back to my marketing business background of when I went to the conference and all that stuff. But it's more or less just to showcase some things like shot put discus rings, our turf one that we have, and just give track motivation and providing some information to coaches that maybe need, like, hey, I need help in the relays. We had a big discussion one night, and I don't know how long it went, but it was like open handoffs or blind handoffs on the 4x2. And, I've heard a lot of coaches at college like the open handoff, like you're grabbing a Coke. I've seen other ones that do it backwards like this. Right. So we like grabbing a can off the shelf and putting it and then switching to our right hands. The 4x2 is so many other nuances in there, and you can't judge the speed of a guy. So that was one of the debates. We talked about the glide versus the spin for shot and disc. I think that's a huge topic. So just giving information out to coaches. There's like over 29,000 followers, which is awesome, which means people are engaged.
Right. Yeah.
Not really trying to sell anything, not trying to do anything, just giving information to coaches and where they can find some resources to help them. And if they need some free information, they can DM me, or they can DM me at MRA Coach Weaver. I get them both. I want to be where I can help, just like we're helping empower kids today. I want to be on a bigger, broader network of where I can help people with track and field. And maybe something that has happened to me in my life can help your program, just like it's helped kids with the program that I coach now with the experience that I had as an athlete.
That's awesome. Yeah, my career was built on coaching education. So I'm a huge coaching education advocate, right? I think smarter coaches make smarter decisions. So, anything we can do to, bless people and show them resources, of course, we've talked about.
You don't know, right?
Exactly. Right. It's called a blind spot for a reason. It's blind, right? So, we've talked about USATF and USTF CCCA coaching, Altus education, et cetera. What's the website for where people can find this at?
It's just, look, you can go to Twitter. It's that simple. And then you go to CoachTube. You can search www.coachtube.com.
Coachtube.com. Great. Okay, good. Because unfortunately, not everybody has Twitter. I don't know. I don't know how, because that's all I'm on is on Twitter. But yeah, that's good. Hey, John, man, thank you so much I love your story. I love the very root of your story of a coach that saw something in you that you didn't even know existed. I love the coach that just walks up to you and says, "Hey man, you need to try pole vault Monday. Show up at the high school and
Yeah,
we're gonna figure it out." And
that's right.
how that impacted your life, not just athletically and scoring points at state and winning titles, things like that, but helped you kind of move that direction towards like, yeah, I'm a coach. That's as eighth grader, you're like, yeah, I'm a coach. That's what I am. Dad, grandpa, love you to death. Thank you for your leadership that you poured into me because I'll use that. But I'm a teacher here, man. I'm a coach. And so how it impacted you throughout your life. That's amazing. That how that worked out.
Yeah, it's everybody has a story, and never knew how this one was going to pan out, and
Yeah.
the life experiences that happened in your life. So when that happened, it was one of the things that like, hey, God, now I know I finished and no heighted. So I go back and I no
That's
heighted in
right.
my first meet, and I no heighted in my last meet.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that's right.
Full circle. Oh yeah, full circle. I'm
Oh,
at peace with it though. I'm at peace with it. If I
well,
can share, if I can share some pain and failure to help a kid that's going to go through that same pain and failure at some point in their life, especially in high school, if they're a senior, so be it.
well, the cool thing you talked about your story, and again, so humbled you'd share your journey with us here. Is you're turning 41 tomorrow. Your story is not even you're just maybe barely at halftime, my friend. Let's think about this. You're going to be 41, right? 41 or 42? 41.
41. 41.
So
Don't age me yet.
double. Yeah, well, I'm gonna age you here because doubling up, that's 82. You're easily gonna make 82 with today's medical advances and things like 82 is you're gonna crush 82, right? So you're literally at best at halftime today, my friend. And so and you kind of had a slow start, right? Because the first 20 years, you're a student, you're a kid, you don't know anything. You've only really been doing this for 20 years. You've got double that, 40 years, 4 for 40. You've got 40 more years here to affect young people. And that what you do for each individual young person on your team, they get to go out and do for thousands of people in their lives through sports and their professional life and education life, man. So it's just so cool to see what you've accomplished through athletes today and what you're going to continue to accomplish through athletes, man. It's really exciting.
I appreciate it, Mike. Anytime I can empower and encourage and elevate a kid, that's what I'm going to do.
Awesome, man. 4 for 40. I love that. That might be my next tattoo. Who knows, man? I really do like that, man. John, thank you so much, man. I'm just so humbled you would come and join us today. Bear that, raw honesty of failures, that helped really build you up. And that's kind of think about your life. If you sit back and think about it, like, yeah, probably how I got to where I am is because of failures. Right. So I'm just so thankful, to be so authentic and honest with us today, man. Thank you so much for sharing.
Mike, I appreciate you. Thank you.
And thank you for being here today, man. I'm always we're so humbled that, we're getting close to season 3 here as we're wrapping up the wild ride that 2021 has become. We got another month and a half to go. And so we're just always so humbled that you would continually come back here and listen to these amazing coaches, these amazing people who choose to be a coach, their amazing journeys and stories out there. So thank you for listening. If you received value today, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that maybe someone else in your network would receive value. So please feel free to share through TikTok, Twitter, smoke signals, text message, Braille. I don't know, however you want to communicate. Let's just make sure we're communicating and join us next week. We're going to do it all over again and have another amazing person here on the hot seat and figure out what their amazing journey is. So I've said amazing 1,000 times, so we're going to stop it right here. Have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you next week.